start, and then we can welcome anyone who comes a little bit late. But
Sounds like a good idea.
okay, so I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll just take a roll call. I'm here. Larry Luckham.
I'm here.
Okay. Eli.
Present.
You're here. And Stan, you're here.
I am here.
Amen. So this will be a virtual meeting as the past ones we've had. If we had someone from the community, would ask them to raise their hand electronically, but since I don't see anyone who's joined, it'll just be us for now. This would be the open time for public expression, and we'll follow all the codes, government codes and such. But since there's no one here, we'll go to the approval of the minutes. Eli sent us his minutes. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
No, I think it was a really good job, Eli. Concise and thorough. So I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Thank you, Stan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, they're approved
I think
unanimously.
I think I'll abstain just because I wrote them, so it feels like it's weird to say aye to my own notes. I'll just
Oh,
abstain.
well,
Right.
we're in the age of self-aggrandizement, so give yourself a punch-up. You did a really good job.
I'll give myself I will officially say aye. Thank you.
Great. Eli, are you comfortable doing it again for this meeting?
Yes, sir.
Minutes? Yes? Thank you very
I will.
much.
Yes.
Deeply appreciated.
You bet.
Okay. Fire Foundation. I do have some information from the Fire Foundation. First of all, the Treasury report, it has gone up. The Treasury report shows $26,267 in the Fire Foundation. That was because Donna McCusker gave a donation of almost $4,000 to the Fire Foundation. Hi, Nadine. Welcome.
Hi,
Hello. Nice to see you.
great to see you all. So it looks like Tom just emailed asking for
Yeah,
login.
I
just
just
sent
sent
the link.
the login instruction.
Okay. You got it from multiple sources then.
Okay. Do you think I should send it to Tom? Do you think there was a problem there?
I just sent that to Tom. He'll be
Okay. Okay, great. So with the Fire Foundation, we're up to 26,267. You may have known Mike McCusker, who was Donna's husband. He was in the department and passed away, and she's been a big supporter of the Fire Foundation, so she made that donation. That's the reason for the increase. We had to make a decision about the crab feed, and you can imagine that deciding to have a large venue activity in December and all the risk of COVID and all the crowding and such and people's fears about getting together, we did make a decision to call off the crab feed for December. All I can say is it was not an easy decision. We just think at this point in time it would be unsafe, unlikely that people would feel comfortable going to it. If we did some sort of hybrid where we had some people in the venue at the rec center and then other people driving by to pick up crab and such, would make it very difficult logistically. We tried to think of the ways we could still have a crab feed, but we really couldn't think it through in a way that would be satisfactory. So we have called off the crab feed. Aside from coronavirus, actually the crabbing itself is going to be potentially problematic. The person who's been putting on our crab feed for us the past few years has retired, so we would have to find a new person. I think Tom is joining us. Tom, are you there? Can you unmute Tom?
He came in as an attendee. I transferred him over to a panelist.
Okay, great.
So he should be showing up here.
Am I unmuted?
So we're getting information that,
There we
there's
go.
Tom. Hi, Tom, welcome.
There we go.
Okay, so
Technology.
we've decided for the Fire Foundation to cancel the crab feed. Also, there's talk about the fact that shipping has affected the crab and the shipping routes and all this. So there's all sorts of uncertainties with the crabbing piece of it. But the fact is it was COVID-19 that was real reason, proximate reason for canceling the crab feed. Now that's our main fundraiser for the year. So the question came up, how can we raise funds for the Fire Foundation? So what Jack Devlin has done with the foundation is draft an outreach letter to all of our friends and supporters. And we're going to send an email and a letter out to everyone asking for resources for the Fire Foundation. It's going to be it's probably going to go out at the end of this month. And there's going to be two angles to it that I think will enhance it a little bit. Number one is that for anyone who donates $100 or more, they're going to get a challenge coin for the PSC, our new challenge coin. So I'm going to donate those for anyone who makes that donation. And then secondly, which is much more impactful, is that Jeff Kramer, who's on the Fire Foundation and has been a huge supporter of the foundation and was a huge contributor to the fireboat, has agreed to match any donations. So whatever people give, Jeff Kramer will match it. And so I think that could be very helpful in raising substantial amounts of money. The crab feed in the general has raised anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. And I'm hoping with an outreach and request for donations, adding the match to it will come close to that. So we'll see. Anything about the Fire Foundation people want to add or make any comments?
No, I think it was just inevitable that we had to cancel it. The COVID is going to make things so difficult, certainly through the end of this year, probably through at least the first quarter of next year. So there we are.
Not a surprise.
Stan, anyone else? It was just hard to imagine having a relaxed time sitting among a bunch of people at the crab feed. This would be so different from past years, it would be problematic. So I appreciate your support on that. Okay, so that's the Fire Foundation. I don't have anything on the Historic Subcommittee. I hope when we have the tour next Wednesday, we can see if there's any of the stands or other display cases and display opportunities that were baked into the plans for the new PSC, but I don't know if they're in there. In fact, I've looked through the door and I didn't see anything. So we can talk about what a display might look like and what we might do to support that. But right now, there's nothing else going on. As far as committee reports. Okay, number one, I want to say that, just a reminder to everyone, get your flu shot. It should be available mid to late September. And as far as timing, I don't know what to tell you the best timing is. If you get it too early, the immunity may wear off late in the flu season, and that may be a problem. But if you wait too long, it might be after the flu has started, so that would give you a problem. It usually takes a couple weeks for immunity to kick in. So the ideal time to get a flu shot, it's not completely agreed upon, but probably late September to mid-October would be ideal. So when that comes up, I urge you all to get the flu shot. That would be important.
How do we handle that in the department?
Through Kaiser Ahmed.
Okay.
All staff go to Kaiser Ahmed for flu shots. We also have our nurse educators, Katie Pinnell. She also can dispense flu shots.
Yeah. I don't know if Kaiser's going to have people come to facilities or not, or have some outdoor setting. My guess is it'll be something outside and not inside to get the shots, but we'll see what they announce. Number two, the state of California came into the Union September 9th, 1850. So today is the 170th birthday of the state of California. And I thought I'd just say that. Happy 170th birthday. Number three, if you haven't seen the movie Rebuilding Paradise, quite interesting for fire service people and for people that are interested in these incredible fires and what the risks may be. It's a very good movie, so I'll just recommend that.
You know, I just heard on the news today, they've got to evacuate again.
In where, Tom?
Paradise.
In Paradise. Oh, that's
There's
shocking.
fires up in Butte County.
Oh my
So
God.
Orville, Paradise, that whole area.
Oh yeah. Okay, well that's not good news. Thank you for telling us. I want to thank AmeriCorps for dealing with 40 years of deferred landscaping on my neighbor's house across the street. Unbelievable. I can send you a picture. They have not lifted a finger in 40 years, and AmeriCorps came and cleaned that place up, and it helped the neighborhood's fire risk go down about 25%. So thank you, AmeriCorps. And finally, Chief White is at a mirror meeting today.
Oh,
But he's
he just joined.
Oh, he's here. Okay, you joined Chief White.
Yes,
I'm going to bring you your report. I'll be right in.
thank you, thanks.
Okay, Chief White, welcome. You got here very quick, so I was going to raise the question is, if you're going to continue to have those obligations, whether we wanted to change the meeting time, but that we won't do that today by any means, but we'll think about that. and you let us know if you think that's an issue that would be helpful. But we're open to that if necessary.
This meeting actually occurs bi-monthly, and it's at the same time every month, but it looks like this may or may not be a conflict for at least maybe 15 minutes into the start of this meeting. So I'm not really sure at this point based on how quickly things went today. I don't know if that's the norm. It's my first time in that meeting, so it's not really sure at this point.
I'm sorry, I'll be right back. So I don't have any contact information.
Oh, we send it to him,
Okay.
but you just, after 30 days.
Let me go tell Chief Senate, hang on.
I got your clear.
Good or not?
Unlock the door.
I don't get a hold of anybody. I sent it to you guys because I can't. Sorry.
Virtual world.
Really.
There he is.
Boom.
It's a holdup.
That's right.
Thank you. Okay, glad everybody's here and we don't have anyone from
Sorry.
the community today. Larry, anything you'd like to share with the Fire Commission today?
Well, I don't want the two chiefs to get too excited, and I've already talked to Chief White about this, but this right here is a high-tech European fire helmet with built-in visor and built-in communications. I'm going to drop it off for the chief next time we have an opportunity to see how folks in the department like the high-tech, modern European equipment. We understand we've just gone through a cycle of procuring new fire helmets, so this one's certainly not going to be in contention. But as some of you know, my wife is Czech, and some years back on a trip over there, I had an opportunity to spend about a half a day with a retired fire chief in the city of Ostrava, which is roughly equivalent to Detroit. And they have a fantastic fire museum there. The European helmets were on display. We talked about the European system versus the American system, and I was really impressed with it. So they haven't been available until very recently, and I don't know, maybe the chiefs know, if there are any departments in the US that are even trying them out, but I got one, and we'll let the department folks, and you may have noticed that, you know, I gave myself a promotion to captain. I just wasn't going to order a yellow one, so and I didn't order a white one either. So
Well, something came into silver that I used to recall seeing maybe about 15, 20 years ago, but looks more like a proximity helmet than an actual firefighter helmet. That looks more like something we can recognize in America, though.
yeah, they're pretty slick. The other thing that it has that we don't have, if I can find the right button. It's easy to find when it's on, but not so hard, not so difficult when it's not on. They're built-in LED lights built into the helmet. So most of the firefighters and myself, when I was out in the field, have some kind of a light attached to a helmet. But those are prone to snag on stuff. And because these are built in and LED, they're really bright and no possibility of snagging. Anyway, that's something for down the line. And those of you who know the charter of the Fire Commission know that one of the things we're supposed to do is bring new technology and techniques to the attention of the department. So that's my contribution for the week.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. Tom, anything you have for the Fire Commission today?
I do not, other than Chief White sent out his memo and had a bunch of to-do items on his memo. And I thought, those might be something that we could help out with, or I would be happy to help out with individually. So Chief White, I don't know if you need our help or want our help, but I'm here, whatever on that list flyers, door to door, whatever you need. I'm here to help. And I feel like I want to do something with the fires and the orange glow today and yesterday. It just, I don't know. I just want to do something. So if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know, Chief White.
I appreciate that, and I will certainly circle back with staff and find out just how you might be able to support us in some small way and meaningful way for you at the same time. But we really appreciate the offer, even if there turns out to be nothing. Just the offer itself is meaningful to us, and so thank you so much.
Oh, sure. And but with that, no, I don't really have anything to report.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Nadine, anything you'd like to report to the Fire Commission today?
Yeah, so a few things. One, I had the pleasure of sitting in on a commissioner meeting, and I will not tell you which one it was, but it made me feel very happy that our group gets along so well, and we're often aligned on all of the things that we do. So I was actually surprised that all the commissioner meetings weren't like that. So it just made me really excited to be a part of this team, continue to be excited about it. So yes. And then the other thing is I was at my family's house in San Luis Obispo this weekend, and I heard my mom, I think it was, saying, there's a fire. And so there was a fire literally right up the street from my parents' house. And I'll put the link in our chat if anyone's interested in seeing it, but it was the closest I've ever been to a fire like that. And the way that the fire department was there instantly, and we had Cal OES airplanes dropping fire retardant on the fire, and then helicopters with, their big tanks of water. I mean, these homes, people had to evacuate because the homes were right up against the hill. But they would have gone out in minutes, had they not been so quick. And it just reminded me again of how much bigger nature is than any of us, and how scary it is at times, and then how advanced and we've just come so far in our firefighting skills. And then I also was so fortunate. I felt really lucky and thankful for the people who were there trying to put this fire out. I mean, it was scary. So, just an experience, and this is nothing compared to what we're seeing up here in the Bay Area and other parts of the state. So again, it was just a real eye-opener. So the things that the fire department here, the things that you're doing are, I'm sure taken for granted, but it's not because people don't want, it's not because people don't appreciate it. It's because I think that we don't even understand the extent of these fires until we actually experience something this small. So hats off to all of our firefighters and personnel supporting them. It was a really big deal. My son, who's almost 3, who loves firefighting and firefighters, was with me as we ran up the hill to see what was happening. And you could hear him. I was taking a video, and he says in the video, "Mama, don't be sad." And I said, "Well, I'm just really sad because I'm afraid for the people that may lose their houses. I don't want anyone to get hurt." And he said, "Don't worry, Mama, I'll protect you from this fire. I'll kick it." and I said, that's actually the one of the few things, what nature brings us, we can't, we'll never know. But he thanked the firefighters afterwards. And so it was very sweet to watch. But
Right.
I put a little clip into our chat if anyone's interested.
Oh, good. I want to see that.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for
Thank
sharing that, Nadine. As you indicated, that was a situation that could have quickly escalated, and it sounded like the San Luis Obispo Fire Department members quickly recognized the need for aerial support, and they were fortunate to get it so quickly given the number of incidents that are going on in the state, and that they may not have had the ability to get the aerial support and would have had to rely on ground assistance, which isn't always, the optimal way depending on the terrain and the slope of that terrain. And so, coming from an experience I had just a couple of years ago, we had the benefit of CAL FIRE jets, I mean literally jet aircraft, which I had never seen flying over not too far from my home in Oakland and making perfect drops on an area that you otherwise would have never thought they could have done it, which was right abutting up to a rock quarry. And so hats off to CAL FIRE. Those pilots are excellent. They know what they're doing. They're very skilled, and they make the ground troops look really good because they come in and lay down a lot of, perfectly timed and located drops of retardant. And so I'm just glad to hear that things turned out well in that instance, because it can quickly escalate, as you know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I was amazed at how quickly Cal OES and those airplanes got there. I mean, it was clear watching it that was what really helped the fire, put the fire out. And I thought, all right, well, we need a lot more of those in California.
I think after this fire season, there'll probably be more investment in those kind of capabilities. We'll see, though.
Yeah. Okay, great. Eli, anything you'd like to share with the Fire Commission today?
Yeah, I have one thing to report. I met with Chief White to start discussions on the department's current approach to data, both with respect to process and tooling. Thank you for the time, Chief White, to walk through that. I thought it was a really valuable conversation to just understand where we are and really started to have a dialogue on where we could go. This is something that I've been engaged with professionally, helping public safety organizations enhance their data capabilities in support of really, I would say, strategic and policy-based outcomes. Following up on that, met with David Catalanato actually this morning to examine some of the tooling that they're using and processes in more detail, and continuing to work with him to understand ways that we can make, I would say, low effort, high impact results, mostly just to free up, if I can say this, free up David's time to do more strategic things than some of the more repetitive tasks that he's doing to get reporting out and accurate. So I'll just say that things are moving in the right direction, and I'll have more to report out in detail as we make progress.
Thank you. Sounds very intriguing. Stan, anything you'd like to share with the Fire Commission today?
Yes. You mentioned the state of California is 170 years old. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So this falls into the same date, only 100 years later. I, for one, and I'll ask for a show of hands, I think everybody would agree, would like to congratulate Paul and Yvonne, correct me on the name, Sasse, S-A-S-S-E. Does that ring a bell with anybody? This is their 70th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And when Paul retired, he retired as a captain with the San Rafael Fire Department.
Oh, wow.
So for their
Impressive.
anniversary, congratulations.
Congratulations. Terrific. I did not know that.
Wow. Did they get married at 5 or something?
Yeah.
We can, which company, was it 54 that went by and did the drive-by today?
54 and the battalion chief were part of a drive-by parade at 3 o'clock today, celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary. And there will be an article in this week's Hot Shot that you'll all see. So we're quite proud of them.
Good.
That's great.
Chiefs, do we have any information on department personnel whose homes were in jeopardy during the fire? Any of the fires? I toss it out because Jim Kiefer recently retired, and they moved from Larkspur down to just off Highway 9 by Felton. They were evacuated and out of their home for a little over a week. I've been in touch with them since that happened. They're now back in. Their water is back on, electricity is back on, and their home was not damaged by the fire. But that's the kind of thing when fire personnel retired or actively working end up with their own home in jeopardy, it's a whole different game.
I can share that we have a spreadsheet of individuals in the organization who either had family members that were impacted by some of the fires, or they themselves may have been directly impacted through evacuations and or potential loss of structures. And so they range from areas out towards Vallejo, Vacaville, all the way down to Santa Cruz, if I'm not mistaken. And so we do have some individuals who maybe roughly 3-4 weeks ago were, maybe even a little bit longer than that now that I think about it, we're facing some circumstances. I haven't heard of anyone lately though.
Okay. Did I touch base with all the fire commissioners? I think I did. Raise your hand if I didn't call on you. Okay, we're good. Chief White, it's time for your very interesting, lengthy, comprehensive report.
Okay, well, I'll try to do my best to not make it too lengthy and just go over some of the highlights, I guess. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. I'll start with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. I've just heard as of this morning that it's quite possible that they may be in conversation with a finalist for the executive director position. And that being said, we might be hearing something here in the next couple of days from what I understand. So hopefully by Friday, there'll be some information coming forward about that. And I'm happy to state that in their first month or so of conducting inspections, our 6 inspection staff have conducted well over 1,600 inspections, both in San Rafael and Marinwood combined. And so they're really on pace after a relatively short period of time to get a lot of meaningful inspections completed. From what I understand, there's been a lot of positive interaction with members of both the San Rafael and Marinwood communities. We've gotten phone calls and emails attesting to their professionalism and their patience. They're being respectful and maintaining their face mask and being socially distant, but yet at the same time seeking to educate the homeowner on what they see when they actually visit the property. And so that was very helpful feedback. The NCCC members, which number somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 individuals and are based out of Sacramento, might be available to come assist us in the next couple of weeks until we see the arrival of the AmeriCorps crew, hopefully in the middle of October, towards the middle end of October. And so this crew won't be as trained or skilled as those AmeriCorps crews, but they actually can come in and do some meaningful work to assist homeowners and or with the clearance of parcels with lopping, chipper efforts, broom pulling, and they can possibly work at one of the exhibits, helping to show and model some of the plants that we see as desirable planting to be fire safe and or fire resistant. And so with that, we're hoping that they can come on board here pretty soon. I think there could be some challenges given the number of fires that have just erupted though over the last several days. So this information may be a little dated. I've got to circle back to Quinn Gardner and see whether or not those crews are still available, because they could be pulled to assist in other areas where they're really needed right now as opposed to working on fuel removal. So I'll try to get more information about that and get back to you if you have any questions about that. That being said, on the 31st of August, we had a wildfire safety forum. I'm not sure if anyone was able to listen in and kind of hear or provide any of the questions in advance of that forum. But I think from what I understand, it was fairly well received. We provided responses between myself, Quinn Gardner, and Officer Sergeant Eberly, if I'm not mistaken. I might be pronouncing his name incorrectly, but from San Rafael Police Department. And those topics ranged anywhere from evacuations to defensible space to some specific things in the area of our current efforts and or future efforts towards drawing down risk in the community. And so I think ultimately there were good conversations, or excuse me, great questions that were received, roughly 45 questions or so. They were condensed down to about half that. And so we tried to tailor our responses to each individual question as best we could, but yet not speak to it 45 different times. So that being said, I did include a link, so if you guys want to take a look at the YouTube version of it, you can kind of get a glimpse of it with that link that's included in the report. National Preparedness Month. September is a very busy month. National Preparedness, as well as Firefighter Health and Well-Being and Mental Well-Being Month. And this week in particular, there's some efforts underway regarding that, but I didn't include that in the report. I just wanted to mention it. But Quinn every year has devised a series of activities that are helpful towards preparedness. And this year is no different. So she's got some efforts that include social media outreach, virtual training, distribution of educational and informational flyers, and some potential prize giveaways. And so we're hoping that'll stimulate some interest. At the same time, she's looking to incorporate something that's more like a coffee chat with Quinn or something along those lines, so that it's not a mundane or really monotonous thing. It's kind of more of a conversation, but yet educational at the same time. And as I stated, we're hoping that the prizes that go for those who correctly answer some trivia questions will help spur some interest. But every week she's got something new planned in the month of September. One of the weeks, I think this the third week in September, there'll be some outreach towards the Spanish-speaking community and some messaging centered in that community. The elderly and some of those who are less technologically competent, like myself, will have some opportunities to interact with Quinn as well. So that being said, we're really hopeful that this month is going to be an informative month as we look at the pandemic, as we look at the potential for earthquake, as we look at wildfire continuing to be a concern for us. There's just a lot of information that can be shared for preparedness for this month. So,
Chief, this is the point that Tom was talking about, because he emailed me also. And if we can be helpful individually or as a group, I think we'd love to participate. So Quinn should know that she can call on us. I'll try to say yes whenever possible.
Absolutely. I'll make sure she's aware that it's the entire group, not just Commissioner Weathers himself. So absolutely, I appreciate that offer again. Not sure exactly how she sees you guys fitting into the effort, but I'm sure if she can rely on you, much like she rely on some staff, maybe there's a way that she can, kind of combine your assistance with maybe some additional staff assistance. That being said, we also have a wildfire mitigation and emergency preparedness specialist coming on board next week. And that's going to be huge because it's going to be some assistance and or relief to Quinn in a way that she hasn't had in quite some time. And so the individual that's being hired has emergency management and disaster preparedness background as well. And I'm really excited about what those two together might be able to start doing in the way of spelling one another, but at the same time, building something that's far more productive. And not to say it hasn't been productive with Quinn at the helm by herself. That's not the case. She's been very productive, but just looking at so much more that can be done in the way of emergency operation plans and a variety of things that can really help out and, again, provide Quinn some needed relief. So just wanted to share that as a side thing. But again, thank you for the effort or the offer to assist Quinn as necessary this month. That's appreciated. I'm going to move into the guidelines for COVID. I'm not going to go too much deep into it because I think, if I'm not mistaken, there may be some other changes that are going to be communicated in the next day or so if they haven't already started communicating those changes today. But short-term lodging facilities, hotels, motels, and short-term rentals have all been given permission to operate in some sort of modified, how should we say, platform. When I was on vacation last month, as an example, in Nevada, they had the ability for hotels to open up to 50% of capacity. And so sanitizing and all these things and these requirements that were outlined for the owner-operators of those facilities, I'm sure will be replicated here, given that they've been operating with some success in other locations. And so with that, that includes timeshares, bed and breakfast, and those areas where there's a lot of tourism activity. One of the things that they asked in particular was if, and given the recence of wildfires and the impact and potential displacements with evacuations, et cetera, that the hotels give priority consideration to those who've been displaced as opposed to those who are visiting from elsewhere looking for an opportunity to rent a room. And so I think we've been very fortunate. Most evacuation orders have been lifted. I'm gonna believe that everyone's been returned back to their homes here in the general vicinity here in Marin County and adjacent counties. But that was a consideration that they communicated to everyone, which I was happy to see that, because I'd never seen priority consideration being given to those who were displaced as opposed to those who may be there visiting. I listed future types of businesses and organizations that at some point could be looking at a modified opening. I'm not sure if all of these that are on the bullet point are actually being modified right now. I think that may not necessarily be the case. For instance, if you look at higher education, I don't think they're quite ready to put the public schools, the K through 12, or the high schools and or colleges or universities. I don't think they're quite ready to reopen those yet. So some of these on the bullet point will be probably further down the road, but I can certainly see where community centers and libraries and other institutions may be able to open just on a scaled down version of allowing individuals with social distancing and proper ventilation and other things. And so I don't have the updated information as of today, but I'd be interested and very curious to see what next wave of things are going to be opening up. I'm even watching on television now, team sports are starting to get the nod as far as football, as an example, maybe out playing, which is very surprising to me, but they're going to go for it and we'll see what happens. But that being said, some of those target areas include concerts and live theater, fairs and festivals, movie theaters and family entertainment venues. Some of these areas where you normally would sit in close proximity or be in very close proximity to others, it looks like they're going to now offer some sort of guidance on how to safely reopen, which, you know, I've got my own opinion about this and whether or not it's safe right now without a vaccination. But I don't get to make that decision, but I'm certainly going to, you know, continue to do my due diligence with my family and with the individuals I'm responsible for here in San Rafael, Marinwood, to ensure that they understand that it's not time to let your guard down, regardless of what's being opened up. This is still an unsafe situation. And so I think we're starting to see that. I just saw something on the internet yesterday. I can't remember the name of it, but nearly 500,000 motorcyclists had went to some sort of venue recently, and now thousands may be infected because of that venue where people were out openly without masks and were shoulder to shoulder, and, you know, and from what I hear, purposefully coughing and sneezing on each other and doing a whole bunch of foolishness. And so if you can't see from something like that thousands of people are infected, you're not going to understand the magnitude of what we're facing right here. So that being said, the somber portion of the report, as of last week, almost a week ago, there were 113,758 cases reported in the United States, with 185,720 deaths. California had nearly 750,000 cases, and I guess you could say, fortunately, a relatively low number of deaths, but still a substantial number of deaths at well over 13,000. Out of the 85, almost 86,000 cases in Marin County, or excuse me, in the Bay Area, Marin County, numbers are as follows: 4,017 confirmed cases and 70 deaths. I saw a report yesterday that indicated 99 deaths. I'm assuming that included the San Quentin figures, because I haven't seen a jump or a spike like that communicated anywhere. So I think that must include the San Quentin related deaths from several weeks ago. At the time of this report last week, 12 persons were currently hospitalized and 124 others had been previously hospitalized but had come out of hospitalization, with 3,622 people recovering. They said well over 70,000 people have been tested in the county. So that's a pretty good number, but it still doesn't approach everyone being tested, which I would hope that's the goal. So,
yeah.
And then last but not least, our fires. Instead of quoting all of this information to you, I will share that I did have information that I received a couple of days ago that indicated that this is the second worst wildfire season in the history of the state. And I think we're on pace to definitely become this probably being the worst in the state's history. And so well over 7,448 fires had been ignited as of September 6th. I counted roughly 13 plus major incidents in various stages of containment from 0 to 95%. But as you can see, things have gotten worse outside. They haven't gotten better. And I understand there's a marine layer that may account for that. I think it was Chief Senate that explained it to me earlier this morning. But the marine layer sits down low, and then that smoke is sitting above that marine layer, which actually ironically gives us breathable air, but it's occluding any sun rays and anything else that looks like what we would consider to be blue skies or anything that resembles some sense of an environment that what we would consider normal. I think back to a couple years ago where we had poor air quality. I'm not sure what the air quality meters are reading right now. I need to do a little research and find that out. But clearly, you know, things are not by any means normal, and I'm concerned that moving forward, you know, this could be just the beginning, like I said, because we're very early into the fire season right now, just, you know, the first part of September. And so with that, we're going to hold out optimism, but, you know, realistically speaking, you know, this report the numbers might grow tremendously. We had 2,200,000 and I think roughly 80,000 acres have been burned so far. This time last year, there were 117,000 acres that were burned. And so that puts it on a pretty serious scale for you to see how things have changed from this year from last year to this year, rather. I'm happy to state that the Woodward fire has no more local resources committed to it, and I believe they're probably at 99%, if not 100% containment at this point. They have projected containment as of yesterday. I think all evacuation orders have been lifted. And so with that, there's improvement, at least locally. I hope that improvement continues, you know, geographically around our areas, and then moving outward towards Northern California, Southern California, and Central California, where they have the Creek Fire and some of the other large-scale incidents, and push that all the way north into Oregon, Washington, and, you know, British Columbia. So really tough season. I speculated with Chief Senate earlier about how prescribed burns used to be one of the ways that, you know, years ago the lands were managed, and it cleared out all of the fuel, but at the same time regenerated the soil for additional growth. But our policies had changed that over the course of the past 100 years or so. And with that, I just got to wonder if that accumulation of fuel is really the byproduct of what we're seeing right now. So will prescribed burns be something that they use as a tool moving forward on a far larger scale than just Indian reservations where they're currently being, you know, deployed right now effectively? So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm going to say that concludes the report, except one last thing. We have 3 recruits that just graduated and were sworn in last Saturday. Lucas Hagberg, Brent Heinrich, and Diego Rojas are now all working as San Rafael firefighters. And we had a socially distant graduation ceremony with just their families in 3 separate tents. And got to give credit to the battalion chiefs and Captain Giusti and Chief Senate and others for helping to coordinate and structure something that turned out as well as it did. It was very hot out that morning. I'm glad we did it in the morning instead of the afternoon, because about midpoint of the ceremonies, you could see the family starting to suffer a little bit from the heat, because it was just that warm out there and the sun was starting to beam directly on those tents. And so, but that being said, we welcome 3 new members to the organization.
That's fantastic. And Chief White, I don't know if you've seen our certificates, which we've given out in the past to new members of the department, people retiring and such. But if you decide to do those and you want to have your signature and my signature on there is fine, or just your signature is good too. Those are certificates that people like. So Bob can show you those.
Can you show me a snapshot of those certificates? Because I saw something that looked like a vintage certificate from the San Rafael Fire Department to those members, and I thought I'd like one of those for myself.
Yes.
So I'd certainly like to see what you have to offer, and perhaps I can get one of those for myself, signed by, you know, you guys and or the mayor or the city manager. But it was the kind of thing that I was really impressed by.
Well, if it's what I think you're thinking of, Chief Gray took an old certificate from the early 1900s and had it changed and updated only in terms of name, location, and such. And it looks very retro and very cool. And we have an opportunity to get those from a printer on 4th Street. So Diana knows the routine in doing that. So
Yeah.
we should get you one, and we should get them for the new people too.
I appreciate
They're
that.
great. I have
That's
one. A lot of people have
great
it.
thing that Chief Gray has done, because it's a way of still bringing some tradition forward
Yes.
in a very tastefully done way. So I'm happy to hear that that's something that he was involved in.
Anything from anyone else that they want to bring up or follow up on any of the chief's report or such? This is sort of the brainstorming part of the session. I was just thinking that when you look at COVID-19, a lot of people have just said, like they did in Sturgis, we'll just go out there and not wear a mask, we'll give it to each other, and we'll get herd immunity. And they actually tried that in Sweden. Everybody just goes about their business and doesn't wear a mask, and eventually you protect the oldest people, the sickest people, but then you let everyone else get it and have a mild case. That's the thinking. I'll put thinking in parentheses. So the idea of herd immunity. There's something analogous in the wildfires. I mean, there's so many wildfires going on in the state. You think at some point a lot of the fuel has been burned up, and we would essentially have herd immunity to wildfires. I mean, there's some analogy there. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't think that works, because Tom, you were saying that Paradise is getting re-evacuated. So if Paradise didn't burn everything in sight, I don't know what would.
Well,
so
it's an interesting thing that you mentioned, Dr. Mizrock, and I'll say this because I wondered, at the rate we're burning fuel, how much fuel could be left to burn? But I gotta say, this is a large state, far larger than we give it credit for, and those areas where we have a lot of vegetation, I think we just scratched the surface. So I'd be very concerned about, really getting a false sense of security that, we burned most of what we've had to burn, and now in 5 years or so, we won't have to worry about this for another 20 or 30 years. I think that's probably wishful thinking on our part.
I think it is. I think it's magical thinking. I don't think it holds any water. But when you realize how difficult it is to get a controlled burn approved in Marin County,
Right.
The Tamalpais fire crew tried to do some stuff, and if they create a little bit of smoke, they started getting phone calls, and everybody's upset, and the air quality is adversely affected. I mean, reasonably so. I'm not saying it's unreasonable, but it's a matter of degree. When I think about all the meetings we had in San Rafael to talk about the wildland fire urban interface, and people were pushing back and say, well, but these trees are special, and these plants are special, and you shouldn't have to take away 5 feet from your house. And then in the middle of fire, you see these videos, and they're taking the bulldozer and just going right through it and bulldozing, 45 feet completely to protect the house.
Right.
So it's a matter of context and understanding what you have to do to protect yourself, stay safe, but then realize that there are certain circumstances where it's going to be out of your control, and then you're stuck.
Yeah, that's a public perception issue. The advantage of prescribed burns is that you burn under conditions and what have you that you select based on the prescription. And the crucial difference is that when a wildfire gets going, there is no prescription and there are no limits, and the wildfire just burns everything in sight. And I've participated in a lot of controlled burns, and you're able to burn the understory, or you're able to, in some cases, take out groves of trees to return pasture land that trees have invaded over time. But when you do it under prescribed conditions, under controlled conditions, you get the result that you want, and the wildfire just takes everything.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Larry.
Great points for both of you. I think education is going to be the thing. As we look at the danger and we look at the significance of wildfires over the last several years, and Chief Senator and I were just talking about this today, we haven't seen anything like this through our careers, and I'm assuming none of you have seen anything like this through your lives. And so, given this is a new dynamic, and we've been talking about fire season now being year-round. So what do we do to make sure fire season is a season again and not a year-round situation? It may take some innovation, and it may take some revisiting things that were working previously, but it's going to take the public's appetite to agree to some of those things on a trial basis to see if they make a difference, and or it it may not make an immediate difference, but you have to be committed to making some changes and taking some action. And that's going to be the question: is what will folks be supportive of, given their concerns about the environment, but also given their concerns about wildfire safety and the loss of structures and our homes and the way of life for some. So it's a bigger question, that's for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of my career as an internist and geriatrician, I've never seen anything like COVID in my lifetime.
Right.
So the fires you're seeing are unprecedented. COVID in my lifetime is unprecedented. And who would have thought that people would stay home to avoid a disease for months at a time? That is incredible.
The problem is that they're not. And so
They're not.
it keeps on going.
Some aren't, but a lot are. A lot are.
Yeah, like he was talking about the motorcycle rally in Sturgis, which is an annual event. The 3-day event, there were 440,000 people at the event, and they've traced out 157,000 cases transmitted from that one event. It's just, and it's not just participants, it's the family members that they go home to.
Yeah. It's a mess. Okay, Measure R. Did everyone get this in the mail about the sales tax for San Rafael? I hope we can all be supportive of that. Measure R is going to be a 1/4-cent sales tax on the November ballot because of all the downturn in business related to COVID. So if we can be helpful, I'm happy to do that also. So
thank you for that.
remind people. Yeah. Finally, next Wednesday, we're going to get together and take a tour of the Public Safety Center. I'm hoping and praying that challenge coins will be available by then. They should have been mailed on September 8th, but I don't think they have yet. So if I have them, I'll give them out then. If not, I'll just mail them to you. But they look really great, and Chief White and Chief Bishop helped in the design, and they look terrific, and I'll give those out to everyone. And Nadine gets next one because she answered the question right, whatever the question was. So if there's nothing else, everybody stay safe. I look forward to seeing you. Bring a mask to the meeting. You got that email today about temperature checks and washing your hands, and we'll do it very safely. And I think it'll be a very low risk interaction.
All right.
Thank you all again.
Everybody.
I'll make sure I reach out to Quinn about if there's any way for your assistance. Thank you again.
Thank you,
Great.
Chief. Appreciate it. Have
Take
a wonderful
care,
day,
everybody.
everybody. Stay safe. Bye.
Good to see you, Nadine.
And this concludes the meeting of Wednesday, September 9th, 2020 of the San Rafael Fire Commission at 4:53.
Beautiful. Stay well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Eli. Thanks so much for taking notes. Really appreciate it.
You bet. You bet.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.